Canada. Growing up, hearing that country's name would bring maple syrup and Mounties to my mind, but now I just think of political correctness. A few days ago, in an article you can find a link to in the description box, the Ottawa Sun reported that a free on-campus yoga class at the University of Ottawa has been suspended by the University Student Federation. Why? According to the Sun, the acting Student Federation president said the Student Federation put the yoga session on hiatus while they consult with students to make it better, more accessible, and more inclusive to certain groups of people that feel left out in yoga-like spaces. He said, "We are trying to have those sessions done in a way in which students are aware of where the spiritual and cultural aspects come from, so that these sessions are done in a respectful manner." So the problem is feelings of exclusion in yoga-like spaces. That word again. And apparently this is due to a lack of proper respect for yoga's history. I think this guy must be into a kind of yoga where you need to constantly have a stick up your ass. Breathe in deep. Now breathe out. Slowly. Slowly, I said. Rapidly exhaling while white is a microaggression. There is another solution to this problem though. Instead of making the yoga-like space more respectful, the instructor could instead make the space less yoga-like. And, again according to the Sun, to avoid her class being suspended, she kind of tried to do that. She had offered a compromise, suggesting she change the name from yoga to mindful stretching, since that would reflect the content of the program and would literally changed nothing about the course. Unfortunately, as we know, this change wasn't enough to save the classes. There was some issue with getting a French alternative name. It's too late for this instructor, but to help anyone else worried about claims of yogic cultural appropriation, you know, the social justice version of a DMCA claim, filed on a race or culture's behalf, I've decided to create some new names for yoga poses. Yes, the names have already been changed from Sanskrit to English, but we need to go further to make absolutely sure everyone knows we aren't stealing yoga from, Indians? Hindus? Buddhists? From whoever owns the cultural copyright. These names should help instructors provide stretching classes without it being considered a yoga-like space. Also, to make absolutely sure this will be inclusive, the pictures and poses I'll be renaming come from a guide to yoga for menstruation. So let's get cracking with this. Our first position is tabletop. Well, as I suggested before, I want to make sure this is really welcoming to women. So, I'm going to rename this kitchen counter. Up next is cat, or as it's now going to be known, dry heave. And halfway lift? I'm thinking more like wilderness dump. It's important when you're relaxing or doing something for yourself that you don't completely forget that there are bad things too, which is why the ragdoll position will now be known as traumatic childhood memories. The frog was perhaps the easiest position to rename, and will now be known as the pray to God no one sees you like this. And finally, to make sure my version of stretching that totally isn't yoga feels fresh, the child's pose will now be known as waiting for Jared. If that instructor had showed just a little bit of respect for yoga and its cultural history, like I have, instead of spitting in the face of the marginalized by pretending whatever she was doing had any connection to real yoga, maybe the perfectly reasonable student federation would have let her keep her class. To end on a more serious note, can we please just find the source of these politically correct pod people and destroy it? Somehow, they just keep showing up in universities, getting some kind of control, and ruining stuff people like for no good reason. And in fact, not even for a bad reason that makes sense. You know, I might be wrong about this, but I can't really imagine someone who's into yoga enough that they can say yoga's my thing, waking up and thinking, yeah, today I'm going to do some breathing, I'm going to do some stretching, I'm going to get spiritual. But first, something really needs to be done about this woman who's giving free lessons to people, including the disabled, and calling it yoga. But, as usual, that's just another one of my harmful opinions.